Hello guys, my name is Andy from MOONCAKE Visuals, and today's video we're gonna see another cool elements type, which is pretty much screens. Um, as you can see here, I just loaded two videos, right? I explained that in previous video how to do it. I opened the Studio B. Okay, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to my style tab, right? I'm gonna click on the plus icon. I'm gonna collapse talent, and here we have virtual screens. As you can see, again, your library might seem different from me if you have the free version, because the free version only have essential screens that you can use, which is pretty much 16 by 9 screen, 9 by 16 screen, and the curve 16 by 9. In this case, I'm gonna quickly drag and drop this curve 16 by 9 screen. As you can see here, now I can move my screen around. I can rotate it, as you can see it. So here you can see that screens has their own settings, and now this has this cool act dynamic button we're gonna see later. It has a name, and as a talent we can quickly set the input, so the content that we want to display on the screen. So if I open my mini monitor and I open the different inputs, I'm gonna open media input. I have this video from an old studio I worked, and this is pretty much media input 2. If I go here and media input and select media input 2, you will see now that my content is displayed on the screen. No effort. I mean, I can just duplicate in this screen, click on this, move it here, for example, rotate it, and assign the same input. It's okay. I can have the input in as many screens as I want, but I can also have a different input. You see it? So if I let me just quickly move my camera close to the screen. Later we will see how this section works. If now we are here, so I'm gonna go to my PGM out, and you see I have two screens. So I can just duplicate this one as well. Click on this, place it wherever I want. I can rotate it. Cool. So now for this one, it's gonna play media input 1 as well. So I have two screens with the same content, and this in the middle. Now here we have UEVS screen settings. For here we have the screen scale. We can set the scale. The scale, as you can see, is not uniform because the screen has their own aspect ratio, which is 16 by 9, right? So here we have use texture as input. In here, if I enable this, you will see that the input of our screen will stop. This is pretty much, this will allow us to load an image texture and load into our screen. So for example, if I click here and input texture, I'm gonna open the texture loader. I can load a texture here to select it, and let me see, let me look for I don't know, whatever texture. In this case, I'm gonna open this texture, right? And I'm gonna set a name for my texture. So stream BG. You need to set a name, so I'm gonna load it, and now I have this texture. I can just click that, and now you see my screen is displaying this texture. So I can do the same for this screen, for example, and I can select the texture and enable use texture as input. Same for this screen as well, and there you go. And then in here I'm just gonna disable, and I'm gonna have my input there. So as you can see now we have this, right? Cool. So okay, pretty much we have also this screen reflection. So it's like how reflective, because you see these white lines on the screen, this is pretty much reflection from the environment. So we can just reduce the amount of reflection that we want to have, or we can just remove it by setting this to 0, so you can see it. So now we have the screen focusing on our, yeah, cool. So now we have this option, which is input mapping. So pretty much from here we can zoom our input. As you can see it, we can map. This is independent to the screen. So as you can see, even we have the same on both screens, this one has their own mapping settings. So it's like we can stretch it, and then we can stretch it vertically, and then we can just move it, vertically and then horizontally. It's just like to refit our content, as you can see it. So this is pretty much how our screen works. So now if you have if you're not on the free version, if you are on the starter and above, like the complete or the starter or choice, and you go to the elements library and you have more elements, screens pretty much work on the same way. So the only difference is like some screens may have an extra parameter, like for example this one. Let me just drag and drop this screen, right? And if you see here on screen settings, we have this green glow color. So we can colorize our glow as we want, right? So we can move it, like, let me just move it up so we can see it. And then we can assign a glow color. But, input are the same, inputs. And we have also glow intensity here. But as you can see, input workflow is the same as input mapping. Cool. Now, there's also another type of screen, which is these two. They are adaptable, right? In here, we have this adaptable screen, and we have this adaptable flat screen. So the difference between these two is that, as you can see, that the adaptable flat has no backface, and it's a flat plane that can have transparency. So, for example, in here, instead of having a video, I want to have a texture, right? And if I go to screen settings, here I set the resolution of the content I want to display. I'm going to keep a square aspect ratio, and I'm going to increase the size. That will be the scale pretty much. So for this, I can use a video. It doesn't matter, I can use a video. But I'm going to use a texture as input so you can see it. So I'm just going to load a texture, right? A transparent PNG texture. Okay, I'm gonna load this cool Valorant spray, for example. If I load it, you see there is a name there, which is from here. If I click on load, I won't be able to do it because I'm using that texture. So I'm gonna name it Valorant spray, for example. Gonna load it. Now I have this. I can click on this, and now I have my texture. Now this texture has transparency, so I can just enable it, and that's it. So I can place this wherever I want, as you can see it. But, in case I just want to use a texture mask, it's like, for example, I have a texture, but I have a opacity in a texture mask, which is pretty much black and white, you see? I'm using a default, and I'm using this one, as you can see it. So, but we still have the same, input mapping stuff, but input mapping is just for these input videos, right? Not for the texture itself. So keep that in mind. Now, the difference between this is the plane, right? As you can see, this is the flat screen, is that this has transparency, but this one is just a screen. As you can see, this is pretty much a screen that we can just, again, adapt to my content. So in this case, let me set this to be let me see it. Two is 3840 by 1080. As you can see, it's like a 32:9 aspect ratio, something like that. So I'm gonna set this to 5 or 7. And you can see we still have the reflection parameters here. I'm just gonna use this as a banner for a banner, banner here, right? I'm just gonna place my camera here, and I'm gonna use a texture for this. Again, I can use video for this, but I'm gonna use a texture. So I'm gonna load it here. I have a bunch of white banners here. Again, change my name, white banner, and click on load. Now I have my banner. As you can see, this is my white banner here. And this is pretty much it. So you have multiple types of screen, but again, the settings are really similar. So this is all for this video. If you like, don't forget to subscribe and share, and see you in the next video.